I found out something while in Ireland. I spent 2 weeks in Ireland with a group of photographers in beautiful Donegal in the northwest of Ireland. It's just the most amazing part of Ireland.
Was it rainy?
Every part of Ireland is good, but Donegal is beautiful. Plus, it doesn't have that many tourists, so we didn't have to navigate around other people with photography. It was rainy, it was windy, it was sunshine, and all that several times a day in the course of like 30 minutes. I mean, pretty much like 3 seasons within 30 minutes, and then rinse, repeat. So,
but that means it's very green.
It's beautiful. The light is just the most amazing thing, and everything is in motion. Landscape photography up there is really about timing. I mean, you wouldn't expect that. Like, you set up your camera with landscape. Landscape doesn't run away. Landscape doesn't mind you shooting it. So, but there it really is about timing, because the clouds are in motion, and up there it's an island, so there is a lot of sea around it, and at the sea. And one of the things you can do there really well, and it's a bit more involved, but it's a lot of fun once you get it down, is long exposures. So slow shutter speeds. We're talking about like anywhere between a quarter of a second and several minutes of exposure, which will create some of the most fascinating results. And that's what I want to talk about
now,
today.
Of course, it means you're not going to take pictures of people, because you're not going to get them to stand still for 30 seconds.
Well, let's just have a look at that.
Really?
I sent you a link with some photos, and some of those are just regular photos, and some of those have been taken at longer exposures during the daytime. Now, this one, the second one,
I can tell. I'm looking at the ocean against the cliff, and the ocean is so creamy and soft. I could tell it's a time delay. Right?
So it kind of adds something magic if you go longer shutter speeds. Now, of course, you will need a few things to help you during the daytime, because your camera will not be able to expose lights. This one is a 20-second exposure, for example.
Tripod.
So you need a tripod, obviously. You need some sort of a remote release or a self-timer on your camera that lets you...
Why do you need that?
Because you don't want to press the shutter button, because that would move the camera. So
jiggle.
You want to
jiggly.
It jiggles it. So you'd need something to release the camera without actually touching it.
You can always do the time release, where you say take a picture in 3 seconds. Right?
And that's what I do for some of these shots. There's most of the cameras let you set up like the 10-second timer, where you might use for a group shot that you want to be in. So you press the shutter and then run over to the group, and but there's also a 2-second mode on many cameras, and you set that up, and then you just use that for these kind of long exposures. And there's a third thing that is really helpful here. It's kind of crucial here. It's the so-called neutral density filter, an ND filter, which is pretty much sunglasses for your camera. It takes out the light, makes everything darker, so you have to expose longer, but it tries to preserve the colors. So
this is important, because in daylight anyway, you take a picture for 20 seconds, you're going to let in so much light that you probably can't stop the camera down enough to make it work.
No, you can get to something like a quarter of a second sometimes, but that would mean to shoot with very small apertures, and that will create some other optical issues. So to get like very long exposures, to smooth out water surfaces, waves, and like in little streams or in rivers, that can be really beautiful. Or the frothy sea, you can turn that into a mist almost.
It's so
into
beautiful.
A very smooth mist.
I love these.
To even out that motion, you will need several seconds. This is a good example. If you look at the sea back there between the pebbles or the boulders, that looks like it's mist, but it's actually the sea that has moved for like 20 seconds.
This is one of the things I really think is important to emphasize if you're a photographer, is experiment.
That is a lot of experimentation to get that right.
You might want to take it at a very high shutter speed to freeze the water, see what that looks like, and then take it at 10, 20, 30 seconds to let the water kind of move around and see what that looks like. That's all about, and I think the best photographers like you love to experiment with this stuff.
Oh, a lot of experimentation. And going back to having people in the shots, that second shot that you looked at, there is actually a person in there. And the reason for that was initially just to give it some sort of a size reference.
Yeah.
You know, you want to see that this is actually huge cliffs there. So there's this tiny person sitting there.
Did you shout down to him, "Don't move"?
It did. It was, first of all, it wasn't that dangerous to get out there. It looks much more dangerous than it was.
It does.
And he was one of us, one of the group. He's a photographer,
so you
and
told
he
him.
went out there to take a selfie. Like, he set up his camera and had a
funny.
remote release, like a wireless remote release. And when he was out there, I shouted over to him, "Don't move for 20 seconds."
did.
And that's what he did. And I took a 20-second exposure. He
cracked
just
me
sat
up.
there for 20 seconds. And this is how you get a person in there.
Oh, what a great picture. These pictures are available on Chris's website. But, you know, I'm looking at them on Flickr, and that's giving us a nice big... You put them on Facebook, too, but you're on Flickr. NUBUI is his Flickr handle. So Flickr.com.
I'm everywhere with those pictures because I'm so happy about them.
They're
I put them up
just
everywhere.
gorgeous. These images are so... The color is so beautiful. I love the slow shots. There's a cute dog on an Irish wall. It's great to get a living thing in these images, isn't it?
This is a shot that actually just happened. I mean, the dog was just standing on a wall. It's a dog framed in a window frame behind it.
It's perfect.
And the dog was just walking up there, and it stood there for me, posed. That's when you have to be ready, because this is a situation that doesn't happen every day.
They talk about the perfect moment, right? And being ready for the perfect moment, you know.
Yes.
Knowing what you're going to get, pre-visualizing it. This is a beautiful one of the ocean. I think another time.
That's about quarter to half a second, and that will allow some structure in the water, whereas some of the others are completely smoothed out. This will preserve some of the structure. This will show you some of the motion. Quarter to half a second is a really good shutter speed. Like if you're shooting streams and things, and you want the motion of the water to be kind of visualized.
Chris Marquardt, discoverthetopfloor.com, and we'll talk about our assignment when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.